Hello, welcome back to Cheesy Octopus Gaming. Dr. Jason here, and if you didn't think I could focus on a spell any more useless than polymorphs, today we're looking at Mutate Spells, and even I stray away from these. There's only one that I think is useful, and I think these really need a buff, and it could be a very simple buff that would actually make these useful. So you get these from Corsten Bloodscorn. He's in Stormriven Hall. He's behind like a wall. And let's just dive right into it. The sprite, Midnight Sprite, is the only useful one. Just a little background. How this works is it works just like a normal sun enchantment. You click on it, you click on the spell that you want to enchant. So you'd have to enchant Sprite. So you have to have Sprite trained, which I'd say is a fairly common thing. So it's actually common that you might use this. It can't be a treasure card, it has to be the actual card. It does 180 damage, 1 pip, and then adds a 20%. That's any type of attack, not just death damage. This is more useful for PvP, but I mean, if you have a Sprite just sticking around in your deck and you happen to come across the Mutate Sprite, you can add it on attack, and now you have a plus 20% for the boss that you're going to attack. This one I think is the best. I'm going to give this a low A tier, maybe high B. Okay, next we have Mutate Locust Swarm, and it turns it into Polar Swarm, which does 35 plus 420 over 3 rounds. If I didn't mention this in the last thing about the Midnight Sprite, when you mutate something, it changes its school and the school's damage. Because it changes the schools, you can no longer use power pips for it. So 3 pips, that's 3 turns you have to wait to use this. And you get this at level, 56, I think. This is already pretty useless, unfortunately. It's not that great. It does add 150 damage to the normal spell, and you get this before the sun enchant that does this much damage, I think. So it's a little buff, but it's still not that great. It's helpful for balances to have a spell that you can mutate because balance damage, am I right? But still, it's not that great, so I'll give it rank C. Okay, next on the list we have Mutate Banshee, and it turns it into a Forsaken Banshee. This is the other one that could be maybe useful. Hardly. So again, just like Midnight Sprite, it does 375 damage. Well, Midnight Sprite doesn't do that, but whatever. It does damage and then puts a shield or trap on. Better damage, better trap. This is useful for someone who has trained maybe up to Fate, so you will have to have Banshee by this point, and you also have a Life Mastery Amulet. Death Wizards, you would have already trained Banshee, but this is useless to you because you don't need a Life Mastery Amulet, you heal. So I give this one B. Okay, next up. For this to be useful, you have to have trained Ice Wyvern and have a Fire Mastery Amulet. You probably wouldn't have trained Ice Wyvern outside of your school because it's after Tower Shield, so again, that rules out a lot of people. It adds 300 damage, which is pretty okay. That's better than any Sun Enchant up to Azteca, even beyond, I believe. But this will be in C tier, just because it adds a ridiculous amount of damage. Okay, Mutate Kraken. This sort of sucks. It's not great. It only adds 115 damage. And what person who's trained Kraken is going to have a Fire Mastery Amulet? This is negative Z tier. Not worth it. So this is up to 5 pips now, so if you don't have a Death Mastery Amulet, you have to wait 5 turns to do this, and it's only 170 damage more than the normal Minotaur. Again, negative Z tier. It's just too many pips, unless you have a Mastery. And last, Mutate Phoenix into Thunderbird. It only adds 15 damage from the normal Phoenix. It does add 3 30% traps, universal, onto whatever you attack with, so it could be good with the boss, but again, it's 5 turns you have to wait for. What I really like about this spell is, say pips weren't a problem, it could actually be useful as a fire wizard to mutate this, attack a boss, and now that's 3 more plus 30%, so now you can do fuel, and wow, for your next attack over time spell, that's amazing. So, okay, what would I recommend to change with all of these? First of all, I just think it should not change the school's pips. I think if you mutate a spell, you should be able to use either that school's pips, or maybe it should just be sun pips, and it lowers the pip cost to something more realistic. Another alternative would be to make them all rank 1 or 2 spells that are utilities. That could be useful. It would be nice to see this maybe doubled. In addition to the amount of mutates being doubled, it would be nice to see one of these converted into balance damage, one of these converted into myth damage. I think 3 go into fire or something like that. No, 2. It's just not that great. 2 into fire, 2 into death, so myth and balance are left out. Really, these would be good if you doubled the amount of these that we had, if you made some of them not damage over time spells, make them mutates, and allow the wizard, the caster, to use power pips. You know, these might actually be used once in a while instead of never. I know mutates are a niche sort of thing, but it would be cool if, as a balance, you see you're going into a battle against a balance. Oh god, that's so annoying. Why don't I just mutate one of my spells, and I don't have to worry about that ridiculous resist, or them putting up elemental or spiritual shields. Maybe that's why Mutate Locust Swarm is good. But I hope you enjoyed watching this. If you have better suggestions than I do for sun spells, or maybe sun spell ideas, I'd love to hear for those double mutates. Please comment them below. I'll see you next time.